gentlemen, on behalf of GWN and GLC, I extend a warm welcome to our most awaited masterclass and to each one of you present here. I'm Anita Makaria from Chupkamna Events and Experiences, a wedding planner by profession, and your host and host for this evening. And I just love these month ends. You know why? Because it's a time to enjoy the month's hard work, plan for the coming month, and it's time to learn and grow through our masterclass. And to add to it is this 10 long days of festivities. May Ma Durga bless all of us and our loved ones, abundance of health and wealth. Navratri ki aap sabhi ko shubhkamnaएं. Before we begin, for the benefit of visitors, this masterclass is a scheduled session organized by the Global Wedding Network. GWN has effectively formulated a business model which works towards the boosting of the wedding industry by enriching each one of its suppliers and vendors across the globe and establishing quick intercity collaborations. As an auxiliary unit of GWN, Global Learning Curve is an educational platform where we host education series with some big names of the industry, the experts of the industry, and inviting the professionals in their own fields. And today, we have our misters, none other than a very dear friend of mine, Mr. Srikant Kanoi. Hailing from a family who are pioneers in the tea in India, he decided to create his own niche in the world of flowers by settling up in one of the world's greenhouse floriculture project in Bangalore. His project tanked, but his romance with flowers did not. And he soon moved into the wedding industry in the year 1997. Never someone can shirk. He's a person who's never to shirk his responsibility. He has donned many hats across various associations. He's someone who hates controversies, stands firm on ethics, and bends back to make others feel happy. His mantra is very simple. Always stay positive and celebrate, appreciate the positive in others, and forget the rest. And his motto, if you wake up without a dream, just go back to sleep. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome with a big round of applause the founding vice president of Karnataka Event Management Association, the director of Grower Flower Council of India, the vice president of India Florist Association, the co-founder of Bandfluencers, and the CEO of Nupur Dreams and Ethereal Celebration Management. Let's welcome Mr. Srikant Kanoi. Welcome, Srikant.
Hey, that's lovely. Thank you so much. Hey, Anita. Hey, friends. Nice to see all of you out here.
It's our pleasure to have you with us. And what more, you know, guys, Srikant and I have a lot more in common apart from just being wedding planners. We both hate dramas. We both are from the same founding team of Karnataka Event Management Association, where he's been the vice president and I was a treasurer there. And he still continues being the VP. And you're, so the journey is still going on, and you know, we have a lot more to do. Coming back to the topic that we have today, flowers add charm and grace to the occasion. They are a great way to bring the wedding venue to life, to represent the couple, to add some of the wonderful fragrances on the wedding days, and to make a statement. In a world where virtually any flower is available on demand, it could be difficult to make up the mind to select the right kind of flowers. But don't worry, that's what we are here for. We'll point you in the right direction, of course, with Srikant's guidance. So let's concentrate and let's choose on what looks pretty. So Srikant, I would like to hear from you. What brought you to the flower industry?
I'm basically from the tea plantation industry. And in the tea industry, the turnover per acre was just a mere 6,000 rupees an acre. The tracts of land are much higher, the lands are much higher. So we were one of the first people to enter into commercial floriculture in India, greenhouse floriculture projects, specifically down South India. And 1990 is when I shifted to Bangalore, started, as you mentioned, we started one of the first floriculture projects. The project did not do well, but when we were having production, there were days I was throwing away 10,000 carnations. Production was there were no buyers for the same, the off-season, etc. So what does one do? I started reaching out to wholesalers across India. I started reaching out to florists pan-India. We started parceling. So wholesale started. We had our own floral depot, wholesale floral depot in Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata. Then subsequently, we moved into hotel supplies, and we also opened wedding franchises. And so basically when the floriculture did not do well, and I had to close down after a major loss, huge loss. Then at that point of time, the question was, do I go back to my tea estate, which had disguised unemployment, a lot more cousins than the required number of hands needed to run the estates, or alternatively look at different ventures in Bangalore itself. And that's the time when I thought of getting into weddings. And when I got into weddings, I realized that in the pyramid, if you have the production, you have the wholesale, you have the floristry, you have the corporate supplies, you have the imports and the exports, but the biggest chunk, the biggest takeaway is when you enter into the wedding industry. That's where the pie is the biggest. And yes, that's how I came into it.
Nice. That's a wonderful journey. And yeah, they always say ki in adversities, you should open up for new opportunities. And I think that's what you've done, Srikant. And so glad that you took that step to enter into the wedding industry.
Yeah.
So we were just talking about flowers, and you mentioned carnations, and you mentioned a few other flowers. What do you think should be the criteria of selecting the right kind of flowers for the weddings? What are the key factors that we should keep in mind before we select these flowers?
See, the first and foremost, when we talk to a client, the budget plays the most important role. Then also the function which we are looking at, what's the bridal wear, what's the color of the bride, which is going to adorn the day or the particular function, what is the color of the hall or the settings around it. We go with the flow. What's the season? What's the flowers in the season? Just all these are the factors which we take into account. The primarily being the budget, and everything as follows.
When you talk about budgets, Srikant, what's the breakdown like of a budget?
In the sense, budget with respect to flowers, or budget with respect to the wedding?
Both. I would like to know budget of flowers, and as a wedding planner, when I ask you as a wedding planner, what portion should composite my flowers?
I personally feel we have been keeping our budgets on the lower side with respect to weddings, and I've been trying to educate and discuss this with many of my fraternity friends out here. Normally, in a wedding, the floral decor takes up around 20 to 30% on the higher side. Generally, in the wedding, when you are talking about the entire wedding expense, 20%, 15%, 20% is the normal expense which goes towards a wedding. Now, let's presume I'm going to a client, and the budget the client gives me is 100. 100 can be 100 lakhs, 100,000, 100, whatever. And when we are getting 100 rupees, tell me, Anita, what is it that goes in your case if you're getting a floral decor? And the floral decor takes care of your flowers, the props, the fabric, the stage, the lighting, the florists and the laborers for the day, the transportation, the logistics, etc. In this entire gamut, what is the percentage?
Decor, yeah, if I'm talking
decor.
only of the decor
Right.
part of it,
Right.
without the other components
Right.
involved, I think 60%, yeah. At least.
What if I tell you it should be only 10%? So if you are doing a setup for 100, the flowers cost should be 10, maybe 15. So there was a situation when it touched 20 also. So pre-COVID, when the roses and the carnations around 4 years back were an average of 200 rupees a bundle, then we are looking at 10%. And then overnight, when the prices started changing, when the COVID came in and the prices started shooting up, then it also went up to 15%, at times 20%. But normally, if I've seen across a year, my average for flowers is on a dot 10 to 12%.
Okay, so you're talking of only flowers. You're not talking about the drapes and the other props.
So all those are the other costs which comes in. Okay. When I'm talking of 100. So you are saying that if you're doing a wedding for 100, your total cost is 60 and your take home is 40.
Not really all the time, but there are other components. As wedding planners, we don't concentrate only on floral designs. So we have the furniture, etc., etc.
Yeah,
Let's
take the
let's not
furniture
get into
into
that
account.
part of it.
No,
We are
all of us are fraternity members, or all of us would love to know from each other's experience as to what should be the cost and what should be the take home. So depending on people and from planner to planner, everyone has their own take. But in my case, most of the time, if I'm looking at 100, my cost of the flowers would be around 10 out there. My cost of rentals, etc., would be another 10. My cost of other miscellaneous items would be, say, another 10, which includes a labor. If you
So are
want to
you trying to
extend
say
it,
70s your takeaway?
if you want to extend it, maybe 35, yeah, 60, 65, 70 is normally a takeaway because you're using a lot of props. And okay, let's presume you're making a prop for the first time. So you're taking home maybe 50, because obviously if you're making something new, you're also charging the client a higher amount, telling him that I'm going to make something new for you. And so at that point of time, if you're taking home out of 100, unfortunately, you're not even taking home 50 or a 45 or a 40. The next time you make up for it. The next time you ensure that you're taking home 70, 75. So that's how it works. It works for me. It works for me. I've been working on it for so many years now. And okay, but I've not taken into account my overheads. So you have got your overheads rentals, you have got your overhead florist, which you have to pay the rent, the salary for the entire month. I have taken into account the cost of a person on that particular day, the cost of transportation on the particular day, the cost of fooding, which we have to give to them on that particular day, the cost of rentals, which we are paying on that particular day. But there's so many overheads which comes along with it. You have your regular employees you have to pay, you have your accountant, you have your depreciations happening.
That is there. You have your
all those things I have not taken into account. So if you're not doing as many, so there are different ways. Certain people who would probably take home 20, 30, but they would continue doing maybe 15, 20, 25, 30 events a month.
Maybe volumes help.
Yeah, they go on volumes. I go on my margins. I prefer to work on a lesser number of projects, give it my all, and take home what I personally feel is my rights. And what I'm taking home is not that, in spite of taking this home, if I have to mark myself or rank myself amongst my peers, and a few of them are sitting out here, and I really admire a couple of them out here. If I have to judge my costing against them, I don't think I charge higher to the client than my competitors. It is just how you manage your costing. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not that I'm charging a client a higher amount. It is how you play it in the back end, how you ensure that your costs are on the lower side. That is what creates and makes a difference. And maybe a lot of you are maybe I'm not the only one. Maybe a whole lot of you are taking home 60, 65, 70 on each and every wedding. I'm not sure about it.
Yeah, I think it's very subjective, and not many people will be very open in discussing it on an open forum. You've taken it up, and happy to hear that from you. So when you talk about florals and you talk about floral designing, where do you draw your inspiration from?
See, there are a lot of things which happens even when you're going out for a walk, even when you're going out to a furniture showroom, you may go to a hotel, you may go to a party. There are certain things which you like. At times I just click them, what I like. Even a certain kind of a flower which I may like, which is a seasonal flower, which may not have a kind of shelf life which is required, but I know that yes, I can use it for a couple of hours. A kind of drapery which you come across in a friend's home, or a kind of props which someone has used in his or her drawing room. The kind of when you go and see a movie, Leela Bansali is a huge inspiration. So there are. All of us, we just need to, we look around and we get inspired. And then obviously, you still have the Google, and you still have the Pinterest, and you still have the works of peers who are doing amazing work, which inspires you to a large extent.
That's nice to hear. Yeah, and like you rightly said, that these days we do have we can draw inspirations from a lot of places, and we have a lot of these movies coming up on weddings. We have these shows going on weddings, the big days, and it does inspire budding wedding planners too. And being from this rich heritage culture of ours, where the culture brings in its own traditions, like the marriage ceremonies, the Indian weddings are both vibrant and joyous, celebrating their ceremonies as big fat weddings and at the same time as intricate ceremonies also, grooming around the brides and the grooms generally. So in such a case, flowers become a very essential part of the decoration and the rituals which are involved in these ceremonies. Uh, what would your suggestion be, Srikant? What do we choose our flowers based on the rituals? Yes, there are haldi ceremonies. We've seen a lot of marigolds being used, but when and where do you use what kind of flowers? Do you have any idea on this, or would you like to
So, yeah, so see, if I have to break it down, there is the run of the mill and then how you can make it different. So starting with the haldi, normally most of the time it is a yellow or an orange theme, or you do a yellow and a blue theme if you want to be as different, or you do a yellow and a green, or it's basically these light colors. Marigold obviously plays an important role. You can totally leave out the marigold. You can play with the different flowers in yellow. You can bring in sunflowers, which looks awesome in a haldi. If you have not tried it out, you must. If these are, but again, the bride of the new, they may say, no, we are done with the yellow and the orange. I want something totally different. So blue came in for a few haldi ceremonies. Rust has come in for a few people. It's depending on what they want to wear is choice. But if you're going by the color standards, it's a yellow and an orange, mostly for a mehndi, for a haldi. For a mehndi, you tend to go slightly, you have the entire range available with the entire color spectrum. You can play with red, you can play with any color. For Sangeet, normally it's a bling, so it's more of whites or a red. So you have a lot of Sangeet ceremony which has reds in it, or you have a Mehndi ceremony which has got red in it. So if I'm looking at a yellow orange for a haldi, you're looking at a red for a Mehndi, you're looking at a combination of white only or only red for a Sangeet. Then you come to the wedding. Weddings mostly again is pastel colors, mostly. But you do have the vibrant hues coming in case a client is saying that, no, I want something different. And also depending from which state the client is. So, but if you go by the standard, 70% of the time you see the pastel coming in where the receptions are concerned. And the pastels, I mean, can be the light, the peach, the shades of pink, the whites. And that's the reason why peach, whites, and shades of pink, they just go zoom when the wedding season comes. I mean, these colors rule the roost during the wedding season.
This we're talking about the color palette, okay?
Right.
So when we are doing the floral decor around choosing your color palette, what do you think are the most commonly used flowers in these kind of functions?
So what goes immediately without nodding a bite, without batting an eyelid is carnations, roses, chrysanthemums. These are the three favorite flowers. If you're going for the low scale, which normally we do not use, are gerberas. Gladiolas, surprisingly, are slowly and steadily making a comeback because there's no gladiola in the market, the different colors which we were so used to specifically in the Bangalore market. So because of the fact, for example, once upon a time, even now, for example, if you give me those mini gerberas, I probably may not, I probably would love to play around with it. The mini gerberas wired properly can offer a very good impact on your floral setup. Then you also have the alstroemerias, the anthuriums, the hydrangeas, the lilies, the orchids, the heliconias. You have the spectrum of flowers is amazing. But yes, the first 3-4 flowers, which is normally present in a wedding in one function or the other, are carnations, roses, and chrysanthemums. Chrysanthemums, basically the Calcutta ones, which comes in during the winter season. But what I am talking about out here in chrysanthemum are also the daisy chrysanthemums, the button chrysanthemums. So if I'm doing a floral setup and maybe I'm jumping a question out here, for me, it's always not only the color, it is also the different kind of flowers. It's also the shapes of the flowers. It's also the different sizes of the flowers. So if I'm doing a pink setup, I would love to have the different shades of pink. I would also like to have the different colors of different flowers in pink. I would use a pink rose. I would use a pink rose. Okay, now, if I'm using a pink rose, I will use a pink rose because the buds are visible on the side. But if I'm using a carnation or a peonies or a hydrangea, I will use it face up. Because a carnation on the side will not give you that impact, like a rose would. So usage of the flower, the placement of the flower, you are wasting a carnation, I would say, by giving it a site. Unless, of course, a few of them are required to give it the kind of necessity, but most of your carnations should face out to you. So there is always a big flower. A big flower can be a carnation, a big flower can be a lily, a big flower can be a hydrangea. Then you play with the small flowers. So to give that position of the king to a particular flower, you need to give the subordinates around. So आप एक बड़े flowers ले रहे तो साथ में छोटे फूल भी दीजिए. If your small flower is, that's the reason why my carnations would always have a chrysanthemum, or would always have a statice, or would always have a gypso, maybe sprayed. So the different flowers, different structures, different shapes, different sizes. All 3-4 things are very important. And before I forget, before we move on, foliage plays a very important role where my floral setup is concerned. I love to play with foliage. Number one, it helps you to bring down the cost. Because imagine if you're using a Song of Jamaica or a Song of India, the entire full head, which is equivalent to a head of a hydrangea, or equivalent to a head of an oriental lily, or equivalent to replacing it, you're probably replacing it with 4 or 5 carnations at one go by using one Song of India flower. And a Song of India comes to you maybe at 10 rupees a stem, 50 rupees a bundle, 30 to 50 rupees a bundle, depending on what time you're picking up. You get approximately 5 to 10 in it. So on an average, you're paying 5 to 10 rupees for one stem. And you're replacing 4 to 5 carnations out there. And carnation during the season, you're buying it at 400 rupees a bundle, which is like 20 rupees a stem. So you're replacing 100 rupees with a 10 rupees. And because you're using the green foliage, it creates a better impact for your flowers. So by using your greenery, by using it in the right proper manner, by using different types of greenery also, the big monstrous leaf, the smaller, you use the small leaves and the big leaves also. The same psychology plays with respect to the foliage as I was playing. The lighter the flower, the darker the foliage. The darker the flower, the lighter the foliage. So you play the mix and match the foliage and the flowers accordingly. And don't forget, by using foliage, you're increasing the look, the aesthetics, and you're saving on the cost.
And since we're talking about the foliage and since we're talking about using the greenery in the right manner, what are the common mistakes that you've observed that a few florists or wedding planners do in selecting the complements with the flowers accordingly?
So most of the regular setups which you go to, I'm not talking about the designer guys out here, friends out here. All of them do an amazing job with the florals and the greens are concerned. But if you go across to, let's say, a regular wedding, you'll see, I think they call it the LED wall or something, where the flowers are just stuck together and you have the Dracaena leaves on a roll and the gerberas are one after the other. You look at it and you look away. Or you look at it and you continue looking at it, thinking, if a guy spent so many lakhs, why is the hell has he gone in for this kind of a floral decor? So either you're looking away or you're looking at it with, what the hell, yeah. So those are the mistakes which a person makes. Your flower has a different story to tell. Your foliage has a different story to tell. The reason why a bride talks about flowers, the reason why a bride's mother talks about flowers is they want to bring in that aesthetics of the flowers in their wedding. It is just not bringing a flower and putting it out there. It is how to use that flower properly to bring out that amazing impact which a flower has been created to do.
I agree so much with you, Srikant. Every flower actually tells a story.
Right.
So, you should use it well, and it gives life to the entire ambience. The venue in itself does not have much to say. But when it is embedded with the right kind of flowers, I think that's where the story begins. So very well put. There's always a confusion when you're choosing the flowers. You're using your traditional or easily available flowers. And then you have something like the oriental flowers or the exotic flowers. What would your suggestion be to the wedding planners around here? How do we choose these kind of flowers? Because of course, the oriental flowers are going to cost us a little more. So, it plays on our budgets. But how easy or difficult is it to source them and use them?
So the imported flowers, they come at a pretty high price tag. If you want to buy a stem of Cymbidium, you're paying 1,000 rupees a stem. 1,000 to 1,200 rupees a stem. And you've got flowers which are even costlier than that per stem. So imagine if a client is paying you in 100 multiplied by a multiples of zeros, you obviously can't go and use gerbras out there. And if a client is paying you 100 and the zeros are dropping out there, the client wants you to work with them and help them reduce the costing. And in the costing, the flowers also play an important role. So again, depends on the client. Again, depends on the client. If the client has the budget, bring in the imported flowers, because you are also creating, don't forget, you're also creating your catalog on account of the client. Every wedding you are doing, you are creating something for your future client. Every work of yours has to be excellent. So even if you're using the regular flowers, do it in the proper aesthetic sense. You are doing the client a great service, and more than that, you're doing yourself a great service.
Of course. That's well put, that yes, we are building our catalog, and we don't want to have the same set of photographs time and again. We would like to grow bigger and better each time that we're using our setups. When we're talking about what kind of flowers to use, what are the kind of flowers that we should not be using? I know you've been telling that you don't use gerbera, so I know gerbera is off the list. Apart from that,
hydrangeas is a must in many of the weddings now. Hydrangeas have got a very bad shelf life, unless, of course, you know what needs to be done and how you can keep it. And I'll talk about it a little later. The tulips, the gerbras, these are the three flowers we should not use.
Would you like to elaborate why not use tulips?
Tulips again has got a very bad shelf life. Very bad shelf life. So though you're paying 800 rupees to 1,200 rupees for a bundle of 10, during the season 1,200 to 1,500 rupees for a bundle of 10. It's a small size, looks like a rose from far. So in case the client has the budgets, then you use it in lieu of roses, or use roses. The structure and the thing is the same, but it again depends on how you're using. Obviously, when you're using a tulip, you're not going to give it the same kind of a look which you were planning to give with the roses. Also, roses, though it's the most widely used flowers, it has to be hydrated very well. The roses are there which really needs to be hydrated very well. The hydrangeas needs to be hydrated very well. So these are the few flowers which are Oriental lilies. Oriental lilies, some brides are allergic to the smell. I mean, there are some people, the clients have come back and told us, and I'm sure you or a few of us out here would have heard this. Please do not use Oriental lilies in my wedding. I don't like the smell. And the pollen also of the Oriental lilies can mess around with the flowers if you have not been, if your florist has not been keen on observant to remove the pollen as and when it is maturing. You need to remove it. I'm not very sure whether you're aware of it. Limonium, when you spray water on it, and if you love fish, you will continue to spray water on it. It gives the most horrible smell for people who do not like fish. You would certainly have a room, and if you have used limonium in a big way, normally most of the weddings you do not use limonium, so we are kind of safe. But yes, if gypsos are not available, you are kind of at times being forced to use limonium. You need to be very careful that you're not spraying limonium with water. It emits a very bad smell, very bad smell. So these are the 4, 5, 6 flowers. But more important than that is the care of the flower. Even the best of flowers, if you have not taken proper care. So would you like me to elaborate on the same?
Yes, I was just about to tell you that, Srikant, you've been telling that we need to make sure that, that our flowers are well processed and taken care of. And could you just throw a little more light on this?
Yeah, so there are 6 steps of freshness, which I normally look at, though at times it becomes difficult. But these are the 6 steps of freshness which one should make a note of and do as far as possible whenever a wedding is upcoming. Number 1, wherever you're storing your flowers, the buckets, ensure that it is clean and sanitized. Remember, why are we doing this? To elongate the floral life. So if you know that you're getting the flowers in the morning, you're using it, you're throwing it up in the evening, and what you're getting in the morning, the quality of the flower and the bud is strong and the weather is nice, like a Bangalore weather, you need not worry. But if you're doing it in a hot place like a Delhi or a humid Kolkata or a Mumbai, and the weather is not the best, then yes, you really need to take care of all these things. The number one, the container, they have to be very clean. The cutters with which you're going to cut the stem, they have to be sanitized also. Number two, put in fresh water. Do not compromise ki pani koi bhi chalega. Ensure that the water which you're putting, the quantum of water should not be too much. It should be around this much. Number three, add the nourishment. You have many available now in the market. You can go to Oasis. Oasis has a lot of these packs which you can use, which are the flower food. Flowers are living things. They also need food to survive and last out for a day, 2 day, take on the vagaries of nature, etc. Before you put it in the bucket, ensure your florist has to do all this. You have a team of florists, depending on the size of the wedding, you may have 10 people to 200 or 300. You have a demarcated team of people who are doing this for you. When the flower comes in, this is what they're supposed to do. So the fourth thing is they're supposed to cut the stems at the bottom at a particular angle, which is a 45 degree or more. And you're supposed to remove the foliage from the bottom, all the way up, whichever is going to be inside the water. Number five is hydrate the flowers sufficiently for 24 hours if required. If you're going to use it in an outside open area the next day, hydrate your roses, hydrate your orchids, hydrate your hydrangeas. They really need a lot of water to stand out during the day, and the gerberas if you're planning to use gerberas. Number six, protect them from the harsh weather by giving them a shade before you're using it, or by giving them a cover, or if it's happening in a hotel, and if you're friendly with your hotel, ask them to put on the air conditioning. At least ask them to put on the air conditioning in the small room where you're storing your flowers, which would be used to do the setup if you're doing a big setup. Again, it depends on the scale. If you're doing a small event and you have 2 hours to do the setup, and the event is for 3-4 hours and everything goes away, then it's a different. But if it is a 3-day, 4-day, and you need to start your work a day in advance, you need to take care of all these things. Yep.
I hope everybody's made note of these wonderful tips shared by Srikant Kanoi. And yes, adding life to all our flowers will help its look stay stronger and fresher for a longer time. So thanks so much, Srikant. This has been a wonderful tip that you've shared with all of us. And since I think one challenge that most of the wedding planners may face is procurement of flowers. Where do we source our flowers from? Is it the domestic market? When we're talking about exotic flowers, it could be your international markets or your national markets or your domestic markets. We being from Bangalore, you can just share some places from where we can source our flowers.
Again, depending on the largeness of the wedding. But so you have the importers, if I'm going, or you have the growers, you have the wholesalers, you have got your aggregators, you can club them with the wholesalers also. And then you have the retail florist. Most of us are buying flowers from the wholesaler, or most of us in Bangalore are going to the city market. Even across different cities, you have a mandi, you go and pick up the flowers from there. Alternatively, what I normally do is we normally don't pick it up from the market. We have our own set of wholesalers from whom we pick it up. In Bangalore, Wilson Garden have got so many of them. You are spoiled for choices. The important thing out here is to create a bond with them, that they stand by you at that hour of need. When you are 24 hours away from an event, you do not want your wholesaler to tell you at that point of time, sir, aapka flowers nahi hai, or I don't have the color. And you also need to understand as to what time you're buying the flowers. So if it is Asiatic lilies, the Oriental lilies, they have to come in a week in advance. If they are carnations, they have to come in 4 days in advance. If they are roses, they have to come a day in advance. So depending on the kind of flowers you're using, the inflow of the flowers needs to change. And you need to have a proper, again, going back a step, you need to have a proper space carved out and marked out for those flowers to be kept, for them to bloom open. Remember, if you're bringing in the lilies and if you're using lilies, you need to have that much space so that they bloom open. And then you need to ensure that they are carried properly to the venue. Otherwise, you may have a bloom lily, which if you put one on top of the other and you take it to the venue, you can't use many of them. So you are procuring it basically from the wholesalers. A few of us, if not a lot of us, also have tie-ups with the growers. Now, a grower would love to feed you on a regular basis, provided you are taking flowers from them on a regular basis, or you're a big wedding planner and you have big quantum coming in, and at that point of time, you are in a position to pay them the market price at least. Otherwise, look at it from a point of a grower. I've been a grower, so I look at it from a point of a grower. You want to go to the grower and want him to pay you, give it to you at a lower price during the wedding season when he's going to get a much higher price even from a wholesaler. That really doesn't work. So be prepared to give that extra, maybe 5% or a similar price which you're giving to the wholesaler, but you are cutting off one channel of the flower flow. You're getting it directly from the grower to your place. You save on quality at that point of time. But where I'm concerned, though I know a lot of growers, it makes more sense to have 2 or 3 wholesalers who know you, who work with you around the year. You have built a relationship with them. They have your flowers stocked with them in their cold room in separate buckets, which you can pick up at a pre-anointed time, and it works best. And if you have got an requirement for imported flowers, you have imported flowers wholesalers also out here. You can pick up the imported flowers from the guys who are doing imported flowers, or if required, call for a lot. If the quantities are huge, then yes, it does make sense. If you're picking up a lakh stem of roses or a 2 lakh stem of roses, that by picking it up from the grower, you are saving a rupee or 2. It's a question which you need to work out. Does it make sense to allow the wholesaler to earn for that moment and he takes care of you around the year, or would you rather go to the grower? Because the grower knows that, yes, you are picking up his product from his wholesaler. But where imports are concerned, at times you do not, you may want to import a large quantum directly from Thailand, or work it through one of your growers or importing the flowers, wholesalers who are importing the flowers.
I think that's a wonderful experience that you've shared about, from where you purchase your flowers, be it your wholesalers or your growers. I would request people from our members from our team who's joined us here today, in case you have any questions, feel free to post your questions in the chat box. Srikant would take them up at the end of the section, I guess. When you were talking about taking care of your flowers, Srikant, I would like to know what flowers need minimal water during the 1 or 2 days event, because at times we retain the setups, or we buy the flowers and keep it in advance at the venue.
We reuse the flowers also by being around the bush.
Yeah.
We use the flowers. I mean, if for example, if there is a combination of a pink and a white, and the evening you have got only white, yes, we tell our boys out there, be very careful when you're bringing back the flowers, because I want to reuse back the white flowers. I'm saving the cost out here. So yes, why not? I mean, this is one thing which helps us increase our profit margins.
That's fine. And so what are the kind of flowers which requires minimal water for saving them and keeping them safe?
We discussed this, but yes, carnations is one flower which really holds strong for you. And then the other flowers, the heliconias, that's again a sturdy flower which will stand good with you. Most of the flowers, if you have hydrated them well, they will, even a rose, if you have taken good care of them, they will stand by you. But the sturdy ones are the chrysanthemums, not the daisy ones. The daisy you need to be slightly, the bud chrysanthemum stands strong. The standard chrysanthemums, they stand strong. The carnations, they do well. The orchids, these 3 flowers are the ones which do well. And then the other flowers, a whole range of flowers, which if you take care of the hydration before you use them, 24 hours of proper water supply, yes, they're good to go for at least the next 3, 4, 5 days.
So the other elements, Srikant, which play a major role in creating the ambience is your lights as well. Okay, and it's a photographer who actually, ensures that we are, all our work is captured and memories are created. And any advice, since GWN is a network of all our vendors and specialists here, any suggestions that you have for the people who are into the lights and sounds, and for the people who are into photography? on how the flowers should be taken care of from their end?
So it's the other way around. We need to go to the photographer. I mean, the photographer takes a call out here with respect to the lighting. Even if you want to. So for us, it's always amber, which we call the warm light. Has to be the most important light which we normally use. Unless of course, we are doing a bling. So when we are doing a bling, then yes, we also going for white light. Otherwise, most of the time it is warm light for me. But there have been instances wherein we have used a warm light and the client comes in and he or she says, no, we want a touch of pink more, or we want a touch of red. I don't blame them. They come in from a certain, they have grown up or they have seen weddings wherein multicolored lights are being used. So we explain to them, LED nowadays, they have multiple lighting. So we show them how the product is going to look, or how the ambience is going to look. I'm talking about what we are going to do with respect to the flowers on the, respect to the lighting falling on the flowers. This is different than the lighting which we are going to use on the prop. So if I have to give a golden hue, maybe on the fabric, I'm using a proper gold hue. And on the flower, I'm using a warm. If I'm going to give a red, or if I'm going to give a pink. So the light which is on the structure is going to be different than the light which is going to be there on the flower. On the flower, most of the time it is warm, amber light which we're going for.
Thanks so much, Srikant, for clarifying this and helping us understand how this has to be working for all of us. Any advice that you have for all our wedding planners? Apart from the tips that you've given and the suggestions that you've given.
I'm here to take advice and help from all of you whom I have to give an advice. Yeah.
No, but still, at times experience does talk.
Okay, so the only thing which I would say,
we represented the global learning curve. Here we are greedy to know more and learn.
So the only advice which I would give is also the tagline. One of our taglines for KEMA is make your competitor your friend. From the beginning, what has bind me to this strong association called KEMA is, God forbid, if there is a mess up happening in your setup, in that last half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, the only person who can come across and help you at that moment is a wedding planner or an event planner himself or herself. So do not make your competitor your enemy. Go all out and ensure your competitor is your friend, number one. Number two, also it helps, rather than undercutting each other where a client is concerned, come to an understanding, because the market is becoming more and more competitive as we go forward. Come to an understanding. Do not go below a price line, because then the quality suffers. The people employed at your end, they suffer. The prices post-COVID has gone up. Our costs have gone up. The cost to the client has gone up considerably. Everyone is looking for a decent life. If you look at the kind of life most of our grade 4 staff have been leading, the way India is developing, it is time that yes, even they need to grow. So the only way they grow, it's always a question that why should a client pay for it? But you do not think twice when you pick up a new iPhone at that ridiculous price, which runs into 6 figures. I won't call it ridiculous. Some people will beat the batter out of me because it's a price possession. So if there is nothing which is expensive and there's nothing which is cheap, it is how you look at a product. So if you can package a product and put it across to the client and charge a decent amount for the same, the client won't have any objection, because the client is spending that money for the most important day of his or her life. And they are willing to go to any extent to ensure that you are there to give that final touch to that event. So let's do that. Let's create amazing memories, but charge at the right price for the same, rather than undercutting each other and messing up the industry going forward. Anita, you're on mute.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, there was some issue with the network. Yeah, thank you so much, Srikant. I think that's a very well said advice that you've given most of us, that we need to collaborate and make sure that we are standing. We have each other's back at the end of the day. You never know when these and we've seen it in our industries, be it GWN, be it Tema. We have seen where one event planner has stood next to another event planner in times of distress, especially the TM calls. So yes, please do make sure that you are having your networks well in place, and you are having a cordial relationship with your competition as well. Srikant, I do see a couple of questions here. I would just like to take a few. Varun, if you're here, would you like to ask a question? Varun's question is,
Yeah. So I have put in the chat. So
Yeah.
some places it is like, I have heard, like really we don't bother on that. See, for example, carnation. It is like it to specific to a community, they don't wanted to use that. So is there something like whether we have brought the trend, or is it real that is we should not use? Is there any scientific thing behind that?
There is nothing. It is a belief for a particular sect when they say that we do not want to use carnations because carnations are used in funerals. So this is the how they have been brought up in believing the same. That's perfectly fine. I mean, the way we look at it, when there's so many options available, and if the client says that for my ceremonies, I don't want a carnation, or I don't want to see a rose, or I don't want to see a glycol, or I don't want to see a cherry, that's perfectly fine. I mean, we are spoiled for choices where flowers are concerned. So even if you have to remove one or two from the bucket, it doesn't make it.
Yeah. Anyway, it was nice. So many tips you told. So nice. So let others also get chance in asking. So my end is done. Thank you.
Thank you, Varun.
Thank you so much, Uday. Questions help even others get an idea of what our doubts are all about, which we sometimes tend to not ask. I see Priya asking us a question. Priya, would you like to come up on screen, please?
Yes, thanks, Anita. Srikant, I wanted to know, I mean, I've been wondering how you guys calculate a decor part. I mean, what are the breakups that you guys use? I mean, just wanted to reiterate how to go ahead with that, and also if there is a place for us to understand the flower list of flowers that are available, or what's new, what's trending. Is there any place for us to get to know and learn those things?
Google is always there to help you or anyone else. But yes, in case you want, we can always do a one-to-one. I offer that as a coach and a consultant also, but that's separate.
Wonderful.
The way I look at it, see, when you look at a setup, or when you're looking at a picture and you have to put flowers across, a simple thing, take a 1 by 1, 1 feet by 1 feet square, and put the flowers out there and see how many are required. A 1 feet by 1 feet paper square would have 64 roses, will have 36 carnations, will have 24 chrysanthemums, will have 4 oriental lilies. So you know that if I'm going to do an 8 feet by 1 feet, or if I'm doing a runner of 8 feet by 1 feet, that's an 8 square feet. So 8 square feet, if I'm going to do only roses, 8 into 60, it's 480 roses I'm going to use. If I'm going to use roses and carnation, it is 36 and 60 divided by 2. So 30, 96, 48 flowers I'm going to use. If I'm going to use half of them as foliage, so 48 flowers become 24. So this is how you do the calculation. You see the picture. First and foremost, your grid is 1 by 1, how many rows, any type of flowers, what you're going to use. And then you just multiply that. You get your quantum of flowers which you need. And you take it from one space to another place.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Pleasure's mine.
Thank you so much. I hope, Priya, you got the answer to the question. And yes, as Srikant rightly said, Srikant will be sharing his details in the WhatsApp chat. I'll be sharing it in the WhatsApp chat. I'll take it from Srikant. Meanwhile, Srikant, you can share your details in the chat box so that if anybody wants to connect with you one-on-one and understand things regarding the flowers more better, they can connect with you offline as well.
So I'll share my social media links.
Yes,
I think that should be good enough. And most of my social media has my contact number. So that should not be a
And
problem.
in case you still find it difficult to connect with him, you can reach out to Varun or me. We'll help you get connected.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I noticed that Sumit has raised his hand, and Sumit has a question for you, Srikantji.
Yeah, sure.
I'll ask Sumit to take it up.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Myself Sumit Arora. First of all, a wonderful session. Though flowers and decoration is not my forte, I'm into celebrity and artist management for 20 years in Delhi. But it's a very interesting session, and a recent incident that I faced is quite related to what is we are discussing here. Flowers is, of course, a very important element in the decoration, but I think design is also very much important when you give a client a design element and how you want to make the whole setup look like. So nowadays the client is very smart and always asks to give you a PPT or presentation on mail or WhatsApp after having a first discussion. And 99% what I've seen is they start sending it to other people to take the code again and compare it. So as a person who's trying to do events or trying to do weddings and meeting the client, he gets in a dilemma whether he should share it or not. If he doesn't share it, they think that you're too arrogant not to share it. They think you are too big to share your designs with the client. And if you share it, there's always a risk that they, copy and start taking the, quotation from other people. So as a designer or as a person who wants to recommend decorators for their weddings or to get into this field, how do you think this problem can be solved if there's any way out of it?
So there are two ways of looking at it. A very valid question by the listener. I really appreciate that question. But I'll go to the first point which you said. The most important thing is the structural setup which you're doing. So as soon as you walk into the venue, there's a macro thing which is being created. What is the structure which has been used? How have you decked up the entire venue? So that is the macro thing. Then comes the micro, which is the flowers. How have you used the flowers to accentuate that macro thing? Believe me, 70% to 80% of the client probably will overlook the flowers. They are going to go by the impact which your structures have created, the lighting has created. So if you have played an amazing role with your structures and your lighting, 70% to 80% of the people who are visiting that wedding, you have won them over. But then you have the 20% to 30% discerning clients. The ones who do not like to see a flower which has neck, ones who do not like to see a flower which has been bruised. Those are the people who are looking at the finer points. So for them, yes, you need to ensure the quality. So that's the first aspect. Number two, coming back to the question, what should we do? What if they feel that if you're by not sharing, you think that you are big? Yes, I am big. I have spent 30 years. I may not be big in the monetary terms, but I am big. I've got a lot of people under me whose livelihood in a way is dependent on me. My livelihood is dependent on them. If I cannot take care of them, and how do they take care of me? And if my designs goes out in the market and is copied, then I would rather not allow that to happen. So we are very careful on that front. We try to do a lot of one-to-one meetings even today. When you have outstation client and you are on Zoom, it can easily be recorded. So what we normally tend to do is, sir, before we start showing you the design, there are a lot of my design which is already there on social media, be it Facebook, anything. So which goes for all the planners out here. And some designs which are there on the social media by these planners are amazing. You please take a look at that. If you still feel confident about us, before we start our presentation, we would like a certain amount to be paid. That amount can vary. I would also like to touch on a very important subject post this, Anita, do remind me of the payment terms. If you're having a physical meet with a client and the client says that, yes, now I need to take this back and show it to my friends or my uncle or my relative to get a vote, be firm and tell them, yes, I totally agree. This is yours, provided you give us an advance for the same. That amount of advance can change from client to client, from planner to planner, but this is how you take it forward. If you are someone new coming into the market and you do not have too many work to show on your social media, and your design is also something which you have got inspired by something on social media, then yes, you'll probably be forced to share it. So this is an individual story. There are times wherein I've fallen for the kind words or the way a client has spoken, only to see that he's misused my trust. But every step you fall, you learn from that. And that has been one of the reasons why I will go to the payment thing now, Anita. We have been taking 100% advance for the last 22 years. 100% advance. Our contract talks about 85% on signing, can be 5%, 10%, but 85% as soon as possible, and 15% 15 days before the event. And my clients, they pay me. And there are instances wherein I have not taken up a project when the client has told me they cannot pay me. And there are instances wherein I was okay with taking a PTC during the check days, which is a decade and a half or a decade back, post the event. The only reason is I do not want to go after them, sit in the office. A client told me once, "You're not important to me after my event is over." It was a harsh truth, but it is the truth. For some of them, we are not important. We are just a vendor for them. So yes, if you're going to treat me as a vendor, then you pay me. Simple as that. So we take 100% advance, and we have been able to live by it 98% of the time. Yes, 2-3% of the time you do not follow it, and at times you pay the price for it.
Yeah,
that's my advice to everyone out here. Stop.
Yeah,
doing
sorry,
work
but then for us it's because we are newbies here, so it probably is a little difficult when we start putting
it's a personal thing. If you can ask a client for 85%, what stops you from asking 100%? If a client can trust you from 90%, if a client can trust you with 85%, why can't they trust you? Because what happens then, that 10% or 15% is a question mark. And for many of us, that 10% or 15% is not for all of us, but for many of us, the 10% or 15% is your take home.
The margin.
Markdown.
True. It's the margin. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And when you're doing a markdown from 100, if you're taking a 15% down, and from a cost price when you're taking up, so there's a lot of difference in the percentage. So when you're doing a markdown of 15%, that's a huge amount. That's a big chunk of your profit which is going away. Or for what you have worked very hard for the last 2, 3, 4 months on that project. And I do not subscribe to that viewpoint. I have walked away from the projects.
So probably what I would say, Srikant, just to answer when Priya's question would be that a few of the planners keep the 10% to gain extra trust from the client, and it would give them a competitive edge. Now, for example, say we wouldn't know who are the other wedding planners pitching in for the same event. Say you and I are pitching in. You are somebody who's taking 100% advance. I'm somebody who takes 85-90% advance. So probably it gives me a competitive edge, or that's what the wedding planner thinks. It's giving me a competitive edge against the other person who's pitching in. And the client is more happy and satisfied. Chalo, ye 10% rakha hai, kal ko kuch gadbad hoga, so we anyway can hold on to that 10%. Maybe that's a strategy.
To each
well, that's the strategy most of the times from the client side. Definitely not from our side.
So
I think
as Anita puts it, let it be an individual's call. But I have gone through situations in the early 2000s when my good work has become bad because a client owes me money, or I have been forced to make multiple visits, which is more than what I had made during the discussion of the wedding, and you are made to feel small. That is that one thing which I hate. Aap mere se kaam liyo, I have given you work. I'm an individual with my own with my own standing, and I may be doing a work for you that in no way makes me smaller than you, and you have no right to make me feel small by calling me to your office, by making me wait for an hour or 2 hours just because you owe me money. And you should also remember that when you have a lot of vendors working for you, you also need to ensure that once their work is over, either you're giving them payment on the spot, you're giving them payment in advance, or you're giving them the payment the next day, and you're also not making them sit or call you repeatedly for the payment. If you do that with your vendors, the life has a funny way to reach it back to you. You take care of your vendors, you will God will ensure the clients will take care of you.
Well said, Srikant. That's really well said. And one more question. I think it's not there in the chat box, but I would like to ask this question. I think it is something which is daunting in everybody's minds. Meanwhile, I would request all the members to switch on their switch on the videos. We can just have a group photo. Palani, can you help me with that? as I just proceed to the next question, Srikant, many vendors, many event planners face this problem: real flowers versus artificial flowers. Clients think that because we are using artificial flowers, we can cut down the budgets by say 50%, 60%, etc., etc. What's your take on that?
We offer 30%. First and foremost, I personally do not like to use too much of artificial flowers. Artificial flower kind of takes away the beauty of the entire setup. Then you have also got a very good quality, excellent quality artificial flowers, which a person may not know when compared. But even then, I would rather that given a choice, I use only natural flowers in spite of the cost going high, if the client is willing to pay me. If the client is not willing to pay and the client wants a discount, the max we go in on a floral design cost discount is 30%. We could not go beyond 30%. There is a wear and tear. So even when you're using artificial flowers and you're using the light color flowers, it will get spoiled. The freshness will go over a period of time. For your premium clients, you will not be able to use the same carnation after 7, 8, 9 uses. The petal starts coming out. It doesn't look as whether, for example, if you're using peonies, peonies now many. If you're buying a natural peony vis-a-vis an artificial peony, the rate is there's a huge difference in the price. So be careful when you're using artificial flowers. Be very careful. It takes 1 or 2 flowers a feel of it. A lot of people, what they do is they use natural flowers wherein your hand can touch, and going for the artificial flowers, which is beyond a person's touch. But that's again a personal call. 30% discount where an artificial flower is concerned, if I'm allowed to use at least 50 to 70% artificial flowers. But we always tell our client, if possible, let's stick to natural flowers. Let's reduce a couple of elements if required, but let's stick to natural flowers.
Well, thanks so much, Sri. That really helps us. I think just as Shankar said, right, that we can go on and on. It is a vast topic that we're talking about. We're just touching on the topics bit by bit. We can have a repeat session sometime soon as well. But due to paucity of time, I would like to really request members, in case they still have any questions, reach out to us. We'll ensure that, we have another follow-up session where these questions can be addressed to. Or Srikant is always available for a one-to-one. He's also a coach and consultant. If anybody wishes to know and learn more about flowers, they can reach out to him directly as well. On this note, I would like to thank the Global Wedding Network, the entire team out there, and Team GLC for creating this wonderful platform to help us all learn and grow richer with knowledge. I thank Srikant Kanoi for taking out this time and sharing his passion, his experience, his learnings, his, everything that he's learned over the years in such a short time. I know we don't do justice with just 1 hour. We need more time, but at least for a start, this is good enough. I thank each and every member present here today and those who are watching us on Facebook Live and who will be watching the recorded sessions. Thank you so much. Always be a part of any learning sessions. Once you stop learning, right, you stop growing. So thank you, everyone. It's been wonderful. Anita Makria signing off, your host and host, and looking forward to the next masterclass, which again would be towards the month end, October month end. So looking forward to an amazing speaker, amazing topic, and yet another amazing experience. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Srikant, would you want to have a few closing words from your end too?
I would love to thank you, Anita, to start being such an amazing host. Thank you, the entire GWN team. It certainly is an amazing work which you're doing right over there. I really admire the kind of hard work we have been putting in over the years. And the entire backend team, who I may not know personally, but yes, yeah, thank you so much to all of you. And thank you, viewers, to take our time to be here. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And anybody else, not for questions, if you have a feedback, please.
Before we leave, the last line, if you don't mind, छोटी सी एक वो हो जाए कि खुद से जीतने की जिद है, खुद से जीतने की जिद है, मुझको खुद कोई हराना है, मैं भी नहीं हूँ इस दुनिया की, मैं भी नहीं हूँ इस दुनिया की, मेरे अंदर एक जमाना है.
Wonderful, Srikant. It's a beautiful quote, and I generally use this quote too, I mean, there are 2 quotes which I generally use, and this is one of them. I love this.
Thank you.
And Srikant ji, 2 लाइन आपके लिए.
हाँ जी. Wow.
फूलों की रंग से दिल की कलम से तुझको लिखी रोज पाती कैसे बताऊं किस किस तरह से पल पल मुझे तू सताती तेरे ही सपने लेकर के सोया तेरी ही यादों में जागा तेरे ख्यालों में उलझा रहा यूं जैसे कि माला में धागा हाँ बादल बिजली चंदन पानी जैसा अपना प्यार लेना होगा जन्म हमें कई कई बार
I'm a sucker for good voice. You are amazing, Shankar.
Thank you. Just came to my mind and I thought about flowers, Phoolon ke rang se. Okay, I think that inspired me. And all the flowers in front of me inspired me while singing all the love songs during weddings. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Wonderful,
so much.
Shankar. You added more life to the session. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think this is one of the most interesting sessions where we've had so much of an interaction. Thank you so much, all of you, for being there and inspiring us to take up such sessions month after month. And yeah, looking forward to some more sessions. I think we can just call it off for the day now. But I don't feel like doing it actually. So Varun, the closing statement from your end, and you can tell Palani to stop the recording after that.
No, you can close it.
I already did my word of thanks. But it's just that the smile on everybody's face is still like, helping us to go on and on. So looking forward to the next session. Please do give your feedback in the groups as well. It inspires other people to take out certain time from their busy schedules to make best use of the experiences. These experiences, learning and sharing of these experiences don't come easy. Not everybody is fortunate enough. We'll make the same mistakes. It's better not to make the mistakes when we hear from the experts. So, I think this one sentence has to go out to the fraternity very well, why should I make the mistake? Why should I just got so many tips from Srikant now, which is going to help us in future. So thank you so much, Srikant. Thank you, Priyash, Avilash, Shankar, Sumit, all of you, all those who've joined us today. And looking forward to the next session very soon.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.